Hi, my name is Kenneth Paul, and this is my woodworking shop. It's a genuine pleasure to have you here. I make these videos to share with you the woodworking techniques and the woodworking projects from here in my shop. Today's project is a Harry Potter style wizard's wand. I love projects like this because they require so little material and so little in the way of tooling. You can make this without any power tools. I'm going to use my bandsaw, my 1-inch belt sander, and my oscillating sander, but you could make this with just a coping saw and some files. Ordinarily, I would do a lot of the work on a project like this on a lathe, but not everyone has a lathe, so I want to demonstrate how you can make this with a minimal amount of tools. I make these 12 inches long, 6.5 for the wand end, 5.5 for the grip. And again, the beadwork is just done with files. The cove I do on the oscillating sander, but that could be done on with file work too. All right. If you like the content I'm producing here, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. Let's get to it. All right. This is the start of making the wands. The first thing I do is I draw out a little bit of a pattern. What you'll see here, basically I just made a little squiggly pattern, and I transfer that to a sheet of paper that's folded in half. On each side of the fold, and pick this thing up, there we go. On each side of the fold, I trace the pattern. Then I take my blocks. What I'm using here is a piece of lace wood, and this is 7/8 by 7/8, and I don't know, about 15 inches long. I make the wands 12 inches long. The curved, rounded part of the wand, the twisty piece, is 6.5, and the handles are 5.5. So like I say, you start with the 7/8 by 7/8. Then you spray a little spray adhesive on the back of the paper. Apply it to your 7/8 by 7/8 blank. And in a moment I'll show you the compound cutting that will result in a square twisted piece. This is a piece of gaboon ebony that I had laying around, so I thought I'd make one out of ebony instead of lace wood. And then you take the square twisted and you just use various sanding. I used a oscillating spindle sander and a 1-inch belt sander. You can use files, you can use an orbital sander, a quarter sheet palm sander, whatever you feel like to round it off. And the handles, I'll be showing you a little bit more in a moment, but right now I start by just octagoning them. And you can do that with a block plane, or I have my router table set up with a 45-degree chamfering bit. And I just run the 4 sides on that, and that gives me my octagon handle, which is the start of my handle shaping. Alright, now let me set up and I'll show you the compound cutting trick to give yourself that twisted wand. Alright. Okay, now we're going to tape those pieces on. Let me show you. Alright, you can see here that I'm just took the two cutoff pieces that I made, cutting the wand out. And you can cut the wand. I used a bandsaw because I happen to have one set up with a 1/8 inch blade. But you can cut this out with a scroll saw. Or if you want, you can cut it out by hand with a coping saw. Now what we're going to do is tape those pieces back on with clear packing tape. Here we go. Give me another piece of clear packing tape. Okay, this is the side we just cut. Now we're going to flip it over 90 degrees. Now we're going to do the same cut here. Alright, let me set it up. Alright, now let's cut that other side. Alright, now if we peel off all the pieces that we just taped on, you'll see we now have a twisted end of the wand. It's square, but all we have to do is round that off, and we have a twisted wand. Alright, let's move on to next. Alright, I just used a little bit of mineral spirits to take off the pattern that was glued on. And now I'm just going to pass this on the router table real quick to octagon the handle out before I start further shaping. So let's get the dust collector on. As you can see, the handle is now octagoned out. Alright, on to the next step. Now, as you can see, the handle is rather plain. It's just an octagon, but I think we can do better than that with just a little bit of work. I drew a line 7/8 of an inch in from the end, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dish or a cove right around this by rotating it up against a 1-inch spindle. And we'll use that as a starting point for the grip. Alright, let me get that done. Alright, you can see here where I've rubbed up against that 1 inch or 1 1/8 oscillating drum. And then I took a file get this so you can see it. There we go. And I filed in a bead. Actually, before you cut these out, you could put them on a lathe and do all this as lathe work. I'm never quite sure how I want these things to look, so I prefer to just do it with hand tools. You can see I've laid out another bead over here. I'm laying out the beads about 3/8 of an inch wide or so. I rounded off the end. And like I say, I'll cut another bead over here. I'll deepen that bead a little bit. Like I say, I'm just doing that with files. So sand one cove, round the end off a little bit, put a couple of beads, and whatever you think looks good on your wand. But these make great little presents for the Harry Potter fan. So anyway, let me finish up one of these. I'll put a finish on it and I'll show it to you, and we'll take it from there. Alright, have a good day. Alright, here we have a couple of completed wands. And you can see I did a slight round over for the transition from the wand to the handle. The beads about 3/8 of an inch wide, just a file mark, and then rounded over, sanded and filed. You can see I carved in an initial. And here's another one. And here's one that's just rough cut. These two are made out of lace wood. This is made out of Gaboon ebony. There's the pattern I used. There's the original pattern I drew up. There's the pattern I use. I'm using 7/8 by 7/8 inch stock to make these. And like I say, once I start with a square, I end up making an octagon out of them. Again, you can use a block plane for that. I happen to use my router table, but a block plane works just as well. Alright, and you can see the couple of tools I used. And again, I did the cove right over here. I did the rounding over, roughed out. Again, you don't want to make these perfectly round. You want to have kind of an organic feel to them. When you run your hands on them, they shouldn't feel exactly round. And again, I did a lot of the squaring off with a quarter sheet palm sander. For making the beads, all I did was take a small, this is a small square, but you could use a small triangular file, ran a small mark all the way around, then I deepened it with a knife-shaped file, and then rounded it over using a point file that has teeth on one side and smooth on the other. I just use that to round over with, and then finish it with sandpaper. But like I say, for the little wizard in your world, these make great little presents. All right. Now, let me get right into the cutting of the compound cut to make the twist, and we'll go from there. The finish on this, I sanded with 120, then 220, and then 400, and then I finished it with 2 coats of General Finishes gel satin varnish, wipe on. You see, I just pointed the end a little bit. To make these where they don't break too easy, because they're going to be played with, I go from about 1/4 inch, maybe 1/4 inch strong on one end, and then 3/8 strong on the other end, just to make them solid enough that they won't break easily. And I like using an octagon handle for the same reason I use octagon handles for a lot of my tools. When you put them down on the bench, they don't roll off. So when you put the wand down, it won't roll off. All right. Let's move on.